So now we're going to delve a little bit into immunizations. So like Dr. O was saying, at birth they usually receive the hepatitis B in the hospital. And the second hepatitis B will give between 1 and 2 months of age. The third one, there's a range, and you see the yellow blocks are showing that there's a range where we can give these vaccinations. And some parents want to do an alternate schedule as long as it follows the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Centers for Disease Control schedule. We're okay with doing that altering schedule as well. So it looks really overwhelming here at 2 months, like, oh my goodness, there's like 5 vaccines my baby's going to get. But a lot of these vaccines are combined, and they've been tested to show that they're efficient and they're effective, and they're also not interacting with each other when they're mixed together. So 3 out of these are usually combined, so they usually get 2 shots at 2 months plus 1 drink, which is the rotavirus. And then at 4 and 6 months, we repeat pretty much the same vaccines. And then as the baby starts to get older, they get less and less and less vaccines with each visit. So hepatitis A is a virus that can cause liver disease and also causes severe vomiting and diarrhea in babies. And we do vaccinate some places. It's not mandatory, but we do vaccinate here for that. And then the influenza virus, we usually start that around 6 months. And the very first shot that they get for influenza is usually a 2-dose vaccine. They come in for the initial one, return a month later for a booster, and then every subsequent year after that, it's just 1 vaccine. Okay? And then at 4 to 6 months, they usually get between pre-K and kindergarten, they'll get a DTaP and an IPV, which is the polio vaccine, and then the MMR and the varicella, which is a chickenpox vaccine. So why vaccinate your child? A lot of parents, I know there's lots of literature out there, lots of celebrities and people that tell you shouldn't vaccinate your children because of autism, because this, that, and the other. Well, the risks of the disease is far greater than the unproven concerns about their safety. If you see a lot of these diseases, and there's been a lot of reemergence of measles, stuff that we haven't even heard. I know people, I grew up in the 80s, I didn't even hear about measles now, but measles are coming back, whooping cough is coming back, and this is the reason why we want to vaccinate, to prevent these diseases. These vaccines are extensively tested for efficacy and safety. Like I said, and AAP stands for American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Academy of Family Practice. So these are all tested and proven to be safe for your children. So now we're going to talk about the vaccines and autism. What's the actual truth? In February of 2010, there was a British journal that was called The Lancet that formally retracted their original 1998 study that jump-started the entire suspected link between MMR and autism. So this kind of caused lots of parents in Europe, in the United States, to not vaccinate their children for the measles, mumps, and rubella. And in Europe, there's a huge resurgence of measles, lots of children getting sick, lots of children dying from it, and also here in the United States. So in 2002, there was a study in Denmark. They got about 500,000 children together. Half of them were immunized, the other half were not immunized, and they found no difference in the rates of autism in both groups. In a more recent study in Australia, 2012, it was done in Sydney, there was a meta-analysis, and what they do is they take a lot of studies together, they put it in a computer, they look at the data and see if there's a correlation between the studies. So they got 10 studies together, and out of the 10 studies, they were able to get a total of 1.2 million children together to study, and they showed no relationship between vaccines and autism, or between thimerosal and autism. And thimerosal was a mercury-based preservative that was used back in the day to help preserve the vaccines. They removed it in 2001 because lots of people were saying that was the reason why children were getting autism. It's no longer in vaccines since 2001, but autism is still on the rise. And I think it is on the rise because we know more about it. We know the signs and symptoms. Back in the 70s, the 60s, no one knew about autism. So it was underdiagnosed, but now we have more knowledge of it, so obviously it is more readily available. Okay, so just some basic side effects, and most with any vaccine, you'll get a mild fever, usually 2 to 3 days. You may notice that. And for babies less than 6 months, we do Tylenol. 6 months and above, we can do Tylenol and ibuprofen. There is some injection site tenderness and swelling. You can do some cool compresses for that as well. There's also malaise, which is tiredness and fatigue. They may get headache and joint pain, which is a lower percentile of children, and usually the older ones will complain of that. So I say, as a parent, you should do your own research, and when you are researching vaccines and their efficacy and their safety, make sure you look for scientifically based scientific evidence rather than celebrity or personal opinion. And here are some websites, and all of this information that I discussed are in these notebooks that we have here, and they're in each of our patient rooms if you want to take a look at it today before you leave, or at each visit you can come and look at them as well. And in the back we have vaccine information sheets for all of the vaccines we give, and if you would like a sheet before you leave, we can make a copy for you as well.